Welcome to Let's Talk Jets Radio.
What's up, everybody? Another offseason talking about quarterbacks. So who else better to do it than my good friend Ryan? What's up, man?
Well, it's good, dude. Good to be back. Always fun talking ball with you.
Yeah, this is our favorite time of the year, man. This is the offseason. We always win the offseason. We always have the best stories in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
A big night tonight with potentially rookie of the years. I mean, a lot of fun stuff in the offseason.
Yeah, seriously. We'll find out if all our boys are making it to the Hall of Fame and if Sauce gets either defensive rookie of the year or total rookie of the year. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, and then you got Garrett Wilson getting the chance too, which is exciting. So there's a lot of positives, but I guess we can go to some negatives, but some different things that have changed in the offensive coordinator, man, where I was like, all right, did you agree with the removal of Mike LaFleur, or the parting of ways, the mutual parting of ways, however you want to express that?
I think my concern initially was, LaFleur looks like, at least scheme-wise, that we have receivers running wide open. And to me, that seems like more of a quarterback issue than it is the offensive coordinator issue. But as you started to hear more and more about LaFleur and the way he handled the players, communicating, he's a little more introverted, kind of, I don't want to say weird, but like a little like, not standoffish, but maybe like, you have to conform to this system. And guys that maybe want to use their athletic gifts, maybe like a Zach Wilson or a Denzel Mims or some of these other players, might be kind of put in a box. And as it sort of like unfolded, after everything, like the firing and whatnot, I think I started to open up a little bit more to it. I mean, the job he got in LA with the Rams, he's basically a glorified passing game coordinator. So like, because McVay is going to be calling the plays.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's always, once the firing happens, all the leaks are going to come out, all the stories, all the bad mouthing. He's going to leak stories. The Jets are going to leak stories, and you believe what you want out of it. But I think it was pretty apparent towards the end. You see Garrett Wilson, his frustration, saying, what, defenses know what we're running. You could see, and then you kind of piece things together where, Elijah Moore was pissed off. Denzel Mims was pissed off. Zach Wilson was completely lost. So there's definitely something. Now, do you buy into the notion that Woody kind of forced the issue for Saleh? Like Saleh didn't want to fire him, and Woody kind of forced him a little bit. So listen, man, we've lost, we ended the season terribly, worst offensive football. Do you buy that, or you think Saleh actually, did something?
I think they had discussions probably leading up to it. And I think Saleh knew the pressure was going to be on. I think Douglas and Woody, I don't know what to make of Woody, because I've heard different rumors. I've heard Woody's a fan and he's not a fan of Zach Wilson. Like he's a fan of like the Jets, and most fans right now are not super thrilled about Zach Wilson. Right. And he kind of falls in that. And then it's like, okay, Douglas made the selection of Zach Wilson. And then recently, I think Samini had an article yesterday. They were talking about how LaFleur and Rex Hogan pounded the table for Zach Wilson. He's better than Trevor Lawrence. I'm like, we didn't have a shot at Trevor Lawrence. It doesn't matter. It's like when the player falls to you in the draft and you say, oh, he was the top on our board. We got the best guy here. Like always same idea, same concept. So for me, I think it was more so Douglas seeing that the asset in Zach Wilson is so much more valuable than the offensive coordinator right now, because neither one of them is going to have a job if this offense continues to sputter. And I think bringing anyone else in at least gives you the roll of the dice that maybe some picks or players that may not have looked good under LaFleur may bounce back under a new OC.
Yeah, I think they had to find a scapegoat because they knew like the vultures were circling, man. The fans are pissed, the media, everybody's just mocking the Jets for how inept they were on offense and the failure of Zach Wilson. So then you go out, and I didn't have a lot of confidence in the search, to be honest with you, because I thought the Jets were not a desirable location. You have no quarterback and you have a coach in the hot seat. So it's like, you have to come there. They have to give you some kind of assurance. Like they've got to promise you something. Like, we promise you, if you come here, you're going to have a veteran quarterback. We're going to give you more than Zach Wilson because we don't want you to save Zach Wilson because we don't have time to save him. So I wasn't really sure what kind of candidate you were going to get. And then you obviously want a proven play caller. You can't have a first-time coordinator coming into this mess, right? So like the hiring of Hackett, I mean, we'll get into that, but what were your expectations even going into the search?
Yeah, I think like you, I had similar expectations. I didn't have a great hope that we were going to get like the next trending guy, like a Brian Johnson or, whoever the hot name is, people like Kellen Moore down in Dallas. but I didn't feel like those were going to be realistic options for us because it could be one and done. And anyone with a hopeful career doesn't want to necessarily tie it to a Zach Wilson or a 1 year and done. Yeah. So Hackett, who was, kind of jettisoned from Denver this year, at least, there's that leverage of like, he's probably not going to be a head coach right away again. He's going to have to take the OC job. Experienced offensive coordinator, I think, was very important, like you mentioned. Development of quarterbacks, is kind of important for me, but I would say a little less so for the OC. And I would like the quarterback coach to be like the guy that's going to be like, has his hands all over Zach Wilson. But yeah, I agree. I think the offensive coordinator search was going to be a little tough.
Yeah. And the hiring of Hackett was interesting. I mean, he checked some boxes, other boxes you have concerns. I mean, I'm kind of in the boat where if you want to hate the guy, you could break out 80 stats of why you're going to hate him. If you want to like him, you could break out the 80 stats you like about him, and the ties to Aaron Rodgers are going to sell you because that's the instant guy everybody talks about. And it's like when the Jets come out as an organization, from Woody to Joe Douglas to Robert Saleh, saying we want a veteran quarterback, and then you hire Hackett, everybody's like, well, we have our guy. So, and then even tonight, Woody Johnson's talking to the media, and they're saying we want it. Like they're saying it over and over and over, which is putting a tremendous amount of pressure on this organization, because now the expectation for all of us is you better go get that guy, right? I mean, I'm not going to accept some fucking Jacoby Brissett. You know what I mean? That's not a veteran for me. Like, I want a guy that's going to win some football games. So where do you stand with this? Because, well, first of all, are you standing in 4 days of darkness? Are you going to do that anytime soon?
4 days of darkness. We've been in 50 years of darkness as Jet fans. Aaron Rodgers is going into the darkness. We were born into it.
See, I think him going into darkness is actually smart, because he's going to be ready for the New York. He'll be ready to embrace what we are. He's already been there then,
Right? I think that makes perfect sense.
So the one question I have for you is, because now you have Derek Carr visiting with the Saints, which I'd be surprised if he doesn't go to free agency first. I'd be really surprised, but that could be the case. The timeline makes you nervous where, say Derek Carr does go to Saints, you're going to wait till mid-March to see what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it gets a little scary, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. I was someone at the beginning of the offseason where I was like, okay, I want to go after Carr because of what you just said, the timeline. Carr is going to get released potentially February 15th. We don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. Free agency starts. You want to have your decision at some point there, and then you're going to have to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and maybe some other guys as well. So, I mean, it's interesting to see where you could kind of go with the search, and it gives me the willies. I don't like waiting and like panicking, like, oh no, Rodgers has us over a barrel. Like you were saying, I've always felt that Carr was going to get cut, because like it just seems like there's bad blood between him and the Raiders. Yeah. I just wonder if he's been on 2 trips with the Saints, if he then signs with the Saints, if there will be some type of tampering charge, that like a collusion, like, hey, opt out, or like, don't accept the trade, and then we'll just sign you. Like, I think maybe that's where the Raiders might be trying to angle it, so that way they still get a pick.
Yeah, I was kind of like, like, to me, I'm like the bird in the hand kind of guy. Like, listen, I like Aaron Rodgers. He's obviously be a great fit, but like, if we wait till March 15th and he's like, yeah, you know what? I want to stay in Green Bay, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. If Derek Carr is gone, the other options don't make me, I don't get a feel good feeling from it. To me, it's like Rodgers, Carr, and then it's a big drop off. And if you had the chance to get Carr now, and it's an answer for 4 or 5 years, because like the other concern I have with Aaron Rodgers is how many years are you getting out of him? I mean, this guy is his annual ritual is, am I going to play football or not? What if he comes to the Jets 1 year, he goes 9-8, and he's like, man, fuck this, I don't want to play here anymore, and then he's out, and then we're having the same conversation next year. So Ryan, who do we want a quarterback? So now we don't have anybody. With Derek Carr, you kind of avoid that, where it's like, all right, he's here 4 or 5 years, he's a solid quarterback, he can win games with him, build around them, and do the best you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Carr is a really intriguing option, and I like a lot that he brings to the table, because you'll get the people that say, oh, can you win a Super Bowl with Carr? Can he actually overcome the Burrow, the Allen, the Mahomes of the AFC? And you can kind of look at some of the other quarterbacks that have made it to the Super Bowl in otherwise tough conferences, Matt Ryan, Nick Foles. Like, we have examples throughout history. But for me, I look at Derek Carr and I say, okay, this guy has had 5 different offensive coordinators. He's had 4 different head coaches. He's had 2 different cities that he's been in, and he has put up like 7 of the best 8 seasons that Jets fans would have ever seen from a quarterback. And if he played the final 2 games this year and threw for just his career average per game, he would have had another season over 4,000. So for me, I like what Carr provides. I like getting players that are pissed off and have something to prove. And that's what Carr feels like to me. It feels like he wore his emotions on his sleeve. He gave that city everything. Yep. And I have more faith in Carr hopping cities and new coaching staff performing to the level we have seen than guys like maybe a Watson or guys like Russell Wilson. We've seen how that guys with one quarterback or guys with one head coach get shifted to another team and all of a sudden they don't really fit. So Carr, I think, provides that safety of really high floor health. He's available for 142 of 144 games. He was third in MVP voting to the two Super Bowl quarterbacks in 2015 or 16, whatever year that was. Like, Carr to me provides a lot of excitement that frustrates me when I hear, because I'm sure you heard it too. Oh, he sucks in cold weather. He's 0-7 in games under 36 degrees. Okay, 36 degrees. I get that. He has played 7 games. He has never had a defense better than 20th. When you're talking about cold weather games, it's going to be late in the season. So when those teams are dead in the water, guys in football tend to go into self-preservation mode, and you're more likely to lose games as a losing team because those guys are protecting themselves. And I think that does play a part into it. And then the other part is like, okay, Carr's average 200 yards and a touchdown in cold weather. That's fine for me. We're going to be running the ball with Breece Hall. You had Zach Wilson throw for 150 yards and a touchdown in perfect weather against, at the time, number 1 seed Buffalo without AVT, without Breece Hall. So 200 yards and a touchdown in shit weather, sign me up.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think he'd be fully vested, man. He'd be on a revenge tour. Like, I'm going to prove myself. He's going to be like, he's a team first guy. Like, I like what he does. And I like Aaron Rodgers a lot, man, but you have the concerns. Will he, when will he report? When will he come? Or will he be fully vested? Is he all in? Or is just like, what is he really, how committed is he to this whole team and what he's trying to do and all that? And we'll see what happens. But do you buy into the notion that the Jets, with the hiring of Hackett, are kind of like, it's Rodgers or bust for them? They're like the fact that Carr's not even take a trip here is kind of concerning to me. The fact that Jets aren't even mentioned for him is kind of bothering me a little bit. Are they just truly Rodgers or bust at this point?
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I do think they want Rodgers the most of anyone, but I do think that there's something to the whole feel of where you think a quarterback may go. Like last time the Jets were going hard after a free agent quarterback, it was Kirk Cousins. I mean, and before that, you're talking Peyton Manning. And what happened both times? The Jets went all in on those quarterbacks, and then you look like egg on your face when Kirk Cousins turns down your deal to go to a cheaper contract in Minnesota, or Peyton Manning says, I'm not going to the Jets, I'm going to Denver. And you piss off Mark Sanchez. You get these weird feelings in the building. So I think if you try to go for Carr all out and you wind up, maybe you didn't talk to the Raiders GM. Maybe you didn't talk to Derek Carr because there's tampering charges. But maybe you talk to other people around the league that give you an indication, hey, Dennis Allen was his former coach. The guy that drafted him, he wants to go play for a guy that believed in him, was fired after his rookie year, versus how he was handled in Vegas with McDaniels, where they didn't trust him. They didn't want him, trying to get rid of him. Basically, this whole season is kind of the vibe that I got from that whole situation. I don't know. It's an interesting situation, I think.
Yeah, I'm just hoping it doesn't drag. Like, I just have, once Derek Carr's off the table, I'm going to be really nervous because I don't want the Jets to get used as leverage. And it's like, there's really 4 scenarios for Rodgers, right? It's like, he can stay in Green Bay, he could retire, he can go somewhere else, or he can come to the Jets. So 3 of the 4 are not a good option. And it's like, how much confidence do you have that he wants to come to New York, deal with our chaos, and play for Coach Saleh? Not really sure. That's the kind of thing that makes me a little nervous. Yeah,
it definitely gives me the not so warm and fuzzies inside. I'll say that much. I would say there is a chance he goes back to the Packers, but I think it depends on how they feel about Jordan Love, because Jordan Love is going to want to start this year. So either, Love gets traded to another team, possibly in the AFC. Maybe if Lamar Jackson gets traded to the Falcons, Love goes over to Baltimore, possibly. But I think it's more likely that they roll with Love. They just hit the reset button. You get whatever you can get for Rodgers now. Realistically, he's got 2 years left. He's got a 4-year contract, but it's really 2 years, $110 million. So I think the leverage for teams and the Packers and the NFL are saying like, hey, look, Aaron Rodgers made $300 million through the first 18 years of his career. He's going to make 110 over the last 2. He's not retiring. He's going to get that money, and then he'll decide from there if he's going to continue playing or retire. That's kind of the vibe I've been going with. But yeah, you got to be nervous, right? Like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to go on this darkness retreat. Like how much is he actually involved in it? And I think we'll know based on where he selects to go. And I saw something from the Packers GM before we hopped on this, and it was something along the lines of the Packers and Rodgers have been in constant communication, and that that Rodgers wants to let everyone know prior to the start of free agency. So at least you're not like, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo or Aaron Rodgers. You can at least know the decision then. And we'll know where he gets traded. The thing that pisses me off is it's not necessarily in his control because he doesn't have the no trade clause. And the Raiders have better draft picks than us. If they wind up trading Derek Carr, then they're going to wind up getting additional draft picks that'll also trump us. So that side of things scares me. Not to mention, because of the way Rodgers' contract works, he has this option in there. And once you exercise the option, it makes his base salary go down, which makes you have a very favorable cap hit. But it turns into a signing bonus, which is a lump sum. So he's getting taxed at that huge number in New Jersey taxes, as opposed to a base salary that gets taxed based on where you're playing the game. So he's going to have an $11 million difference going from Vegas to here. So if he wants the money, if he wants to play with Devontae Adams, if he wants more of a West-ish coast team, maybe he goes there. If he wants to possibly be on Hard Knocks, if he wants to set himself up, for some media opportunities, afterwards, if he wants the endorsement deals, if he wants to really take his legacy to the next level, I don't think a second Super Bowl anywhere gets that done, but a second Super Bowl in New York, winning one here is different than winning it anywhere else.
See, the thing is, I think that it could be a blessing and a curse for Rodgers, though. Like, to come here and be the king of New York is one thing, but to come here and start off slow and have everybody start turning on you becomes a complete fiasco, where you go from being the guy that everybody wants to sponsor to a guy be like the laughing stock. Like, you went to the Jets and you suck, dude, or you're doing like you're part of their problem now. Like, that's the weird thing, where you go to the Raiders, no matter win or lose, people are gonna be like, all right, like the Raiders are, obviously a prestigious organization, but win or lose, he's still going to be a star. They're going to do whatever. The media attention won't be the same. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I wonder about. The money's also a different thing too, and it's Devontae Adams. And then it's just the coaching too. Like, I don't know. Hackett here obviously is an advantage, because I'm not really sure what anybody thinks of Josh McDaniels. I don't think anybody likes the guy, do they?
Yeah, no, I mean, I based on like the Patriot way that we've seen from all the Patriot head coaches that have popped out, I mean, Daboll's really the only one that I think has had like good success so far. I mean, it's only 1 year, but like, I think players get rubbed the wrong way. And at 38 years old or 39 years old, whatever Rodgers is, I don't see him trying to learn a new offense. I think the Hackett thing for him with the Zach connection, he knows some of the staff from doing the training camp, things like that. I think he'll eventually wind up choosing New York, but I don't want to wait too long. I mean, my concern really on like some of the other quarterbacks, like Jimmy Garoppolo, do you think he's going to want to play for another Shanahan guy after getting kicked out of San Francisco for the last 2.5 years? I think he's going to Tennessee. And then I think because we have Tennessee's offensive line guy, we have a really good shot at getting Tannehill, which kind of makes me sick to my stomach.
That's like I don't like the A and B is Rodgers and Carr. After that, my C, D, E, and F are make me nauseous, because I don't like any of them. Like we'll sell ourselves on it like a Tannehill. We'll justify the veteran quarterback's been there, won games. Give him a good running game, give him a good defense, whatever. But like, you can't literally buy into it. Like, you just know in the back of your head, you're like, you know what I mean?
It's tough. I mean, I can. There's over the last few days, I've kind of thought a little bit more about Tannehill, just as like the worst case scenario in my mind.
Were you bored?
Well, yeah, I'm like, oh, man, dude, I'm panicked. So like, what happens here? Like, why is this a good option if it's an option? Like, not getting Rodgers. Okay, you're not hitting that massive dead cap hit. Like, Tannehill's probably going to be one of the cheapest quarterbacks available. When I'm looking at him and Garoppolo, I like Garoppolo's, skill when he's healthy, but he's never healthy. Tannehill at least provides you the health portion where you don't have to necessarily go back to Zach. But I have a hard time with like Tannehill's success and separating it from King Henry's success and how, who is he? Is he a good quarterback at all? Or is he just kind of healthy? I don't know. It's definitely a panic move for me. And I'm not sure where the Jets go if things really go in.
And that's that's what the one thing I worry about the most in the situation is the Jets getting desperate and Woody Johnson getting desperate, because he's got to sell tickets, because right now you can't sell tickets. This team is not marketable whatsoever. No face to the franchise. I mean, you can say maybe sauce, but like no quarterback, no offense, not winning, epic meltdown to end the season. You got to sell me something to come back to the stadium that I hate. But anyway, you got to sell me something to come back to it. And what is it? And is Tannehill going to move the needle? I'm not really sure about that. So it's like the quarterback thing makes you nervous. It really does. Like you just like at that. I just worry them being desperate and doing something stupid, like bidding against yourself, being used as leverage, overpaying, doing something ridiculously stupid that has Woody Johnson labeled all over it. You know what I mean? Where like Joe Douglas has been pretty pragmatic with his trades. He's been very responsible with contracts. There's a lot of really good things, but this is his first offseason where it's like he's under the hot seat, man, because you have the quarterback in this situation that you got to find one. You got Quinnen Williams saying he's going to hold out if he doesn't get signed by OTAs. He's got to make some moves here, and I'm just fascinated to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, this to me feels like, the second test for Joe Douglas. The first test was, okay, what are you going to do with Jamal Adams and how are you going to use the picks? Now it's, okay, you don't have the draft capital anymore. Now it's time to start re-signing some guys. And I feel like this offseason is more about retaining our own guys and restructuring some guys and making the veteran quarterback fit and hoping for a long-term plan. And I don't know where it goes. I think the Rodgers situation is kind of the fairy tale, right? Because you at least get this year for a Super Bowl run. You probably get next year for a Super Bowl run as well. He hangs it up and you get a massive dead cap hit that 2025 year. And then you have to decide, after this season, if you want to exercise Zach's 5th year option, or if you want to let that run out and you can kind of diagnose what you see from him behind the scenes for the next 2 years and say like, oh, maybe you get him on a cheaper contract because you haven't exercised the 5th year option. He hasn't done anything. He's been horrible the whole time. I don't know. The interesting thing I think might be how like restricted free agency works. I don't know if it works with like first round picks, but I know if you don't have 3 full seasons, although I guess you may not have to be playing, you just have to be active roster. So that doesn't make any sense. I was gonna say like, man, could he wind up like, because he's been so bad as like not completing 3 full years and being an RFA? I don't know. It's,
well, see, the other thing too is like you look at that and like you're saying the Jets are like everybody's saying the Jets are a win now team. They're a quarterback away, which I understand that to a point. But then you look at on defense, there's a lot of free agents, dude. Like there's several vital cogs that are free agents. Now you look at a team that doesn't have cap space. We're talking about cutting players to create cap space. So you have the guys that are free agents plus the guys you want to cut. This defense isn't your same defense if you make all these moves. So like, see, like a guy like Carl Lawson, who we had very high expectations. Unfortunately, he gets hurt. Last year, he was much better, but he's still banged up. This year, in theory, would probably be his first healthy offseason where you could probably see what he could really bring to the table. But if you part ways with him, $15 million, which you desperately need. What do you try to do? Do you try to restructure him? What do you try to do with him?
I think it's tough because it's not that I don't like Carl Lawson. It's not. I really like the player. I like the personality. I think he is a team guy. I love seeing like the little Instagram or whatever videos of him with like the Jets hat on, Jets, Jets, like that sort of stuff. Like it makes me feel like he wants to be here, and that makes me feel good. But you spent the first round pick on Jermaine Johnson. Michael Clemens looks like a hit. Bryce Huff is an animal, and you have JFM on the other side. So I think it's more so about getting those guys playing time and seeing how they develop than it is about whatever Carl Lawson can give you. Now, if you could figure out a way where he's willing to like, hey, look, I just want to go for a ring at this point. If we're getting Rodgers, like I'll come back, I'll take a big pay cut, then maybe it's okay. And you hold on to him. And then, if you get an injury, you at least have a really good pass rusher there. I think he's worth more than what I think we should pay him. And I think we're going to need that money to maybe bring in the left tackle. That'll kind of provide more of a boost in wins losses than a 5th pass rusher.
No, I completely agree, man. You gotta go with that youth movement, especially at that price tag. And I love Carl Lawson, dude. I think he's an excellent mentor, high character guy, energy guy, work ethic. He has everything you want, except the big price tag. That's like, man, we need this cap space. You know. So you go from that to the defensive line. Quinnen Williams is interesting because now it's like it's the offseason when people start saying stupid shit. Like, you know what? He's not worth $20 million a year. We should trade him. I mean, he's heading into the prime of his career. He's becoming a human wrecking ball. Like, this is clearly the anchor of your defense who's just coming into his own right now. He's so young. I mean, I couldn't consider trading him, dude. But maybe I'm just crazy. I think it's just ludicrous.
Yeah, no, for me, it's a big no-go. We saw how our defense looked without Quinnen. This guy's going to be a beast. He's going to be the best defensive tackle for the next 5 years. I would definitely like to retain him. The concern that I've kind of shared with people is there a situation where Douglas feels his back's against the wall and he should not allocate the cap space that Quinnen Williams will get in a contract and use that cap space for other things to save Douglas's and Salah's job. Like that's the only part that kind of scares me. But I think there's a precedent that's about to be set. And you're looking at Quinnen Williams and you're saying, okay, you've performed. We're going to give you the contract. Now AVT, now Sauce, now Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson. They're all watching this and they're seeing how does Douglas handle this contract? And I think it's important that you didn't give him the contract going into year 4 because then you'll have a line of everyone else. At least going into year 5, you've gotten 4 years of cheap contract and you can put an extension after it. So I think that's fine. I would like to see him get it, but Quinnen has to realize as well. I would like to see Douglas say, hey, we're going to give you $22 million a year. That makes you the second highest paid defensive tackle in the league behind Aaron Donald. The reason we're going to give you $22 million a year is because we have your rights for 9.5 this year. If we were to franchise tag you the next 2 years, it would be like 18 or 19 million next year and be about 23 the year after. That's an average of 17 million per year over these next 3. We'll give you 22 over 4.
Yep.
I think are we fair? That's good. Great. Shake hands, get into camp. That's 100%.
Completely agree. But I think you're right. Like everybody's watching, dude. This is a guy, and this is an all-pro talent that played the game the way you want to play, says the right things, does the right things, team first guy. Your play like a jet guy is Quinnen Williams. That's you don't bring him back. You're gonna be like, dude, what the hell are we talking about here? Like Salah said, we want to make you guys money. You're making him money. Now you don't want to pay it to him. It doesn't look good. So you go from the defensive line, you have some confidence. The linebackers, you have 2 guys that played very well in Quan Alexander and Quincy Williams that are both free agents. And to me, Quincy Williams, you're starting to hear how much he wants. You're like, all right, he's fast. He's a young guy kind of on the rise. He's done some really good things, but what do you do there? Do you want to bring him back with the kind of money he wants, or are you looking elsewhere?
So I think the quicker you get an answer on Rodgers, the better. I think that's the key cog that makes a lot of things work because CJ Mosley has like a $21.5 million cap hit. So like you cannot have that happen this season. I think what you're going to have to do is if you get Rodgers, you go to CJ and you say, hey, look, CJ, we love you as a leader. We want you to retire a Jet. Let's restructure your contract. We're going to go for a ring for these next 2 years. We want to bring back the 2 other linebackers that are alongside of you for next year with the money that we're saving on your contract right now. That way we keep it all together. And I think that's a way you can approach someone and like leverage, not even leverage, but give the player almost a little bit of leverage in saying, hey, you have this decision to bring back these 2 guys if you want. Otherwise, we have to move on. We just cannot have you on the team. Yep. And I think he will understand that. And hopefully we bring back both of them, or at least one. I think if we bring back one of the linebackers plus CJ restructured, then maybe you draft one or you figure out maybe like Sherwood or something like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, man. I think you got to try to bring back one of them at least. And CJ, that contract's like an albatross right now that you're trying to keep kicking the can down the road, but it's like sooner or later he's got to face the music with it. The other one I think is pretty obvious to all of us is Corey Davis and Braxton Berrios, where to me they both can go. Like I'm cool with it, no problem, no questions asked. And I mean, are you in the same boat?
Yeah, for me, it's so Berrios is absolutely off the list. I like him, but he didn't do great on punt returns, and I'm cool with having Knight back there returning kicks. I think he's explosive. We're already paying him for his rookie contract. Keep him back there. Save the $5 million from Berrios. Corey Davis is interesting because I agree I would move on from him and save the $10.5 million, but I still think we need a wide receiver. And $10.5 million is a really reasonable contract. And when I kind of look at the wide receiver landscape, I'm not sure where to go. I mean, you know, if you get Rodgers, maybe you argue about bringing in Lazard, but Lazard's a little bit older, and I think he's going to want a higher contract. I think they were talking $15 million a year or something like that. That's not for me.
Denzel Mims, man, come on, he's getting rejuvenated now. Denzel Mims.
Well, so that's the thing, right? Like if you wind up cutting someone like Corey Davis, then Denzel Mims shifts in, and maybe you can get something out of him in a contract year. That is appealing to me. Now, as far as like, we're going to use the wide receivers. We're going to use Garrett Wilson. We're going to use Moore. Then we're going to use Breece Hall. We're going to use Carter. We're going to use Bam. We're going to use the tight ends. So the third wide receiver may not be quite so important. Yeah. If you get Rodgers, you probably wind up bringing Cobb as like a backup slot. Yeah. So it's just interesting to sort of see how that dynamic's going to like sort of pan out. Corey Davis is just one that I like the talent when he's on the field. He's just not always available. So can you get a healthy guy that gives you 80% of what Corey Davis does for maybe a little cheaper? And that's, that might be a win then.
And I'm also curious about Ruckert too, man. Ruckert didn't do much last year. Get him involved in the passing game too. Like they have 3 tight ends that could be an asset that you want to use more. So maybe that's something they feature too. So you touched on this a little bit earlier, and I'm fascinated by this the most is the offensive line where everybody's like, oh, you need an offensive line in front of Aaron Rodgers. No secret there. You got to run the football. Getting AVT back is enormous. And I was impressed by the way he played left tackle, to be honest with you. And I'm like, you know what? You're in the market for a left tackle because I have a funny feeling Dwayne Brown's going to retire unless maybe Aaron Rodgers comes here. But I get a weird feeling he may be kind of like, you know what? I'm kind of cool with this now.
Yeah, get the surgery and be done.
Yeah. To me, it's like you want a left tackle. You're looking for a left tackle. You may already have one on your roster, dude. Like to me, Becton's not the guy. Becton, if he comes back, great. Put him on the right side. See what happens. I'm not really counting on him. I want a better plan A. But to me, what about AVT playing left tackle?
I think that is the route they'll go if the tackles go before the Jets at 13. I think there's a real shot. There's 3 top tackles in this draft. If the Raiders get Rodgers or if they get, a veteran quarterback, there's a really good shot they're going to take the top lineman at 7. Then you got the Titans who are going to wind up losing their top tackle. He had the ACL last year, probably getting cut massive cap hit right now. They're sitting at 11. They're probably going to take a tackle. Then at 12 is the Texans. And you have to consider, do the Bears want to tackle? And are the Texans possibly going to trade the 12 pick to get up to 1 to prevent the Colts from leapfrogging them with the Bears? And will the Bears take a tackle in front of the Jets?
It's like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, I think AVT is the backup plan for left tackle. And if Becton flames out, I think AVT could be the tackle that replaces Becton. And I think, look, AVT is going to want to play tackle anyway. There's more money in that. But I think as long as he's flexible, I think Douglas would pay him, like a tackle if he could give us that, flexibility as such. It's interesting. I don't know what they do because Brown, to me, could definitely retire. I think if you get the veteran quarterback, you convince him to come back for a Super Bowl push. I'd love to have him as a backup option and have, a rookie over there or AVT if you decide that. Becton on the other side. You have Mitchell behind him. Hopefully he comes back after the blood clots. That at least tackle-wise, it's interesting. AVT provides us some flexibility.
Yeah, I like the way he plays the game, man. He's physical. He's a great athlete. Picks up things quickly. Tomlinson had like a subpar year. Not like I think I expect a little bit more out of him, but I think the offensive line was week in and week out was changing their lineup and just I don't really know what happened there. But and then you have Connor McGovern at center who, depending on who you believe, some people he played very well last year. Some people think he's like a mediocre guy, but either way, he's going to want to get paid. According to reports, he wants to come back. Which does he give any kind of like not sort of discount, but a more favorable contract for coming back? What do you think about McGovern?
I think that's another part of why it's important to get Rodgers because McGovern, while you may not love maybe some personality traits, you don't see that nastiness where he's helping his quarterback up or getting in other guys' faces when his quarterback gets hit. But I think you see the health and stability, and that has been so key. He hasn't been a weak link on the line. He's been solid.
Right.
And I think if he's willing to come back, if you have Rodgers coming in and you say, hey, look, we're trying to win it all. Come back here 2 more years. We'll give you 8 or 10 million instead of the 12 you'd get on the open market. You're going to go for a ring and we'll try to do it that way. If not, so be it. We'll take a center in the draft. I like the idea of bringing back McGovern and drafting a guy that can play center or guard in the draft.
Right.
So that way he can groom at center behind McGovern and then fill in for Tomlinson if he winds up shitting the bed again this year.
So basically what I'm learning from you is Aaron Rodgers is going to be our best selling point to have everybody come back with good contracts, feeble contracts, and want to play here. That's what you're telling me.
It's real tough to sell Tannehill to a lot of these guys.
I'm thinking the same thing too, man.
If you can restructure everyone before Rodgers gets here and you can sell them on the idea that you're getting a veteran quarterback and we have a hunch of who it might be, then maybe you can work all these pieces in. But I think Rodgers is the domino that has to get here first before all the other things fall into place.
Yeah, you start breaking out some of these other names. They're like, yeah, I'm good, man. I want max money, and I'm going elsewhere. They're not going to buy it. So the one interesting player that, is mentioned as like a plan D where everybody gets really frustrated and pissed off and they're half drunk is like, why not we just say, screw it, go Mike White, Gardner Minshew, and Zach Wilson, because everybody kind of likes what you want to like out of Mike White. And then you're like, he's going to be cheaper than everybody else. He's not going to get a huge contract. And then Minshew, we know what Minshew is, and have these 3 guys and kind of say, give Mike White a chance. And I don't hate the idea. I'd rather have a Mike White than some of these other names like Mayfield and Brissett and everything else because it's like our guy and why not at that point. But what are your thoughts on him, man? What kind of contract do you think he gets?
I like Mike White a lot. I would love to have him as like the forever backup for the New York Jets. I think there's a fun passion. The team, rallies around him. But for me, I think he's going to look at the situation and realize, look, this is Zach. They're bought into Zach right now. I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to go with LaFleur, sit behind Stafford. And then when Stafford retires, maybe I get my shot in LA. That's the way I would go if I was White. I'd love to bring him back, but I have a hard time seeing any situation where Zach is not quarterback 2, at least on the depth chart. Like if you get Rodgers, he's played every game the last 5 seasons. You're banking on him not getting injured and having to throw Zach out there. I think, maybe they wind up bringing in a lower tier 3rd string or some type of undrafted guy that they can work on slowly.
You mean tell me Streveler's not the guy? Streveler's the hero, man. You don't remember that?
I hope Streveler has a Streveler package. Like I really do. Like I want to use him like Taysom Hill. I want to throw wrenches at teams. Like give defenses something to think about. Line him up as a running back and don't even hand him the ball. Let him block. Who cares? Like just
don't let him throw.
No, well, yeah, you get him and you get Rodgers on the field or him and quarterback A, whatever on the field, and then it makes guys think. You don't have to take your running back off. But maybe, you don't have the 3rd wide receiver or something like that.
Yeah, of course. Trevor, that was our hero 3 months ago. So do you see them any surprise cuts? The move that's going to be made, they're going to be like, holy shit, I didn't see that one coming.
I think as far as cuts, you're probably going to see Corey Davis. You're probably going to see Braxton Berrios. I think Lawson's going to get cut. I would say Braden Mann's probably going to get cut. I don't think they're going to hold on to him again.
Get him out of here.
Outside of that, I don't know if there's anyone that makes a lot of sense. I mean, maybe they could cut Ashton Davis, but I think at least as far as special teams go, he has that like physical athletic upside. So I don't think it's necessarily worth moving on from him. I mean, unless they want to designate Tomlinson like a June 1st cut, that Tomlinson would be the one that I think would be a surprise. I think he's played poorly enough where you could cut him, but I would just be surprised if they did it.
Okay. And then after Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr, what are your next 3 quarterbacks in order that your order of preference?
Ooh, let's see. My order.
Are you starting to sweat right now?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because I feel like Carr. I like Carr. I don't think Carr is going to want to choose us. I like Jimmy G. I don't think Jimmy G is going to want to choose us. So, like, do I put them on my list when I don't know if they're going to come here? So, I would say Rodgers, Carr, Jimmy G would be like the 3. And then at 4, I don't think I want to put like Tannehill there. I would probably like, I don't want to say Lamar, but they're not going to trade Lamar in the AFC. I would almost rather like throw picks to get like a 26-year-old quarterback than Tannehill. But I understand that the appeal of Tannehill, right? Like he's going to be cheap. He's baseline quarterback play. You could go to Zach whenever you think Zach's ready.
Yep.
It's just a hard sell. I think if you get Tannehill, you're probably focusing on building through the draft. Maybe you trade down from 13 to get more players to replace the players that you're going to lose because no one's going to want to re-sign if Tannehill's here. So, yeah, I guess let me do my list. You got Rodgers, Carr, Jimmy G 3. I'll say Lamar 4 and – no, I won't say Lamar 4. Let's say Tannehill 4 because of the base – God, I like Minshew. I want a reason for Minshew to be here. I love the stats. For me, Minshew is like the ultimate wild card. It's, a guy that has a great touchdown interception ratio. He gets booted out of Jacksonville after they take a generational quarterback. That's probably the best way you could get jettisoned. Now you don't get any starting time because you're behind an MVP and Jalen Hurts. And he's just going to be a free agent. He's going to be available. So like the mobility, I feel like he's got some swagger to him. I feel like he could bring the sauce to the offensive side of the ball. Almost.
There you go. You got one more. That's only 4. You got one more though.
I'll say that. I'll say Lamar's 4. I'll say, God, I don't want to put Tannehill up. I'll say Tannehill's 4. I'll say Minshew's 5, just because I don't think Lamar is actually a realistic option.
All right. Now the last question I have here, it's an easy one, is do you honestly think Zach Wilson has any kind of future at the Jets? Do you I get the whole, if he sits and watch Aaron Rodgers for 2 years, but then he's in year 5, you got to pick up his option and everything else. Do you honestly think he has a future here, or is it kind of like the writing's on the wall? I mean, it's got to be weird with him sitting at home right now watching Woody Johnson on TV saying we need a quarterback. Do you think he has a future here?
Yeah, it's tough to kind of tell at this point. The nice thing is we have to pay him, and he's just got to sit and wait anyway. And it seems like the Packers have at least been able to evaluate Love behind the scenes. So in my mind, I can say, okay, they should be able to look at Zach and determine this guy has developed over these last 2 years. And I'm fine with getting to year 5 of Zach, and maybe it's a contract year, and they say, we got to hit him with the transition tag. If someone signs him away from us, we lose 2 second-round picks or something like that. And then you wind up splitting, if it's a Rodgers, let's say Rodgers cap hit, a dead cap hit of $60 million in 2025, you have him retire in like June 1st. So that way it's over 2 years, and then you can bring back Zach. I don't know. When I watch Zach and I see his footwork at the beginning part of his career, and I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, it looks like it makes sense. This looks like a good quarterback. And then it went sideways, and then he got back in for his quarterback coach, and it got better. And then I feel like there's just like a mental thing, like maybe the game's a little too fast. I want him to react and not think. He has so many God-given talents, the speed, the elusiveness, the arm strength, like play with your athletic gifts. And I think that's where LaFleur failed us, is he didn't make it easy enough to just react with the talent we have, because Mims is just incredibly talented, 6'3", 4.3 speed. Zach Wilson, incredible athletic specimen. Like it's happening more and more, and LaFleur might be the common denominator. So maybe changing the offensive coordinator, maybe you just have some hope for Zach at that point. I wouldn't bank on it, but maybe it works out. He's number 2 overall pick for a reason. A lot of people had him up there.
I'm curious to see how he reacts to this. If they bring in a Rodgers or a Tannehill or somebody else, how he sits and does he really compete and go toe to toe, or does he request a trade, or how does he handle this?
I don't think he'll request a trade. I think he's going to be talking to Rodgers probably all offseason, and I think he would look forward to being behind him. My understanding is the Wilson family probably is looking forward to Rodgers possibly being here.
Right.
When you look at the average NFL roster year over year, there's about a 30% turnover. So if you let Zach sit for 2 years longer, plus this offseason, you're talking a 90% turnover of the roster aside from your star players. So it's going to be guys that have come in after Zach has been here. They have learned from him. They have watched him. And if he can at least develop the skills, I think you can repair that locker room and he can earn it and everything. I think he'll have a slice of humble pie this next year for sure. With Tannehill, he probably goes toe to toe with him and tries to beat him. With Rodgers, it's just, dude, it's Rodgers. Like, sit on the bench for 2 years. We'll figure it out.
Take pictures. Yeah, exactly. No, it's a fascinating offseason, man. There's so many moving parts. You got the coordinator, which, you kind of feel whatever about. You get Rodgers, you feel more happy about it. If you get somebody else in him.
Want me to make you feel a little bit good, right?
Okay, let's do it.
Aaron Rodgers has one of his worst seasons of his career the year Hackett leaves. How did the Seahawks look without Russell Wilson? Right? Makes you feel a little better.
Thank you. I needed that. I needed that on a Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
So, first of all, thank you for your time. I know it's a busy night with the Jets, with the news of, Rookie of the Year, all that stuff tonight, and the Hall of Fame, which is awesome. So, people already know you, but they don't know you, which is a crime at this point. How do they find you, man?
Jets Talk 24/7. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Live streams, reactions, weekly videos, that good stuff.
And how's your family, too, man? Because the last time I was on, you had a special guest, too.
I do, and I'm a girl dad. Got little baby Shay. She's sleeping in a crib right now. It's awesome. It's been a lot of fun watching. Like, I was watching when I brought her home from the hospital, we had Flight 2022, and we're watching that going. I was like, she's gonna be a Jet fan. I can't wait. I got her like a little Jet helmet and like all these different things. It's awesome.
Well, it was funny because the last time I was on your show, man, we talked for 45 minutes, and all the comments were, "Your daughter's so gorgeous. Your daughter's so pretty." Like, nothing about us at all. It's all about how gorgeous your daughter was. I'm like, this is crazy. Hijack the show.
She's my co-pilot. She's my little, wingman, wing
That's
lady.
So funny. Well, Ryan, thank you very much for your time, man. Appreciate it. Enjoy your rest of your week, the off season. I'm sure we'll talk a couple times after that, but have a good night, and hopefully we get some Rookie of the Year and some Hall of Famers.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I'll see you Monday night over on my channel. I'm excited.
Later, man.
Take it easy.